Hey everybody, it's Monday morning. Here with my boy Zach. So what's up, Zach?
What up, man?
Yeah, a little 12:30, just a little lunch. We're gonna sit down and we're gonna a little bit of a working title here. We're gonna call this a high school football central. Zach hit me up and was like, "Hey man, there's a lot of great highlights coming out of the weekend. Let's sit down and talk about them." So that's what we're gonna do, and we'll see. Maybe we'll come up with a little catchier title as we go along here. It's
Yeah,
a little wordy. So if you guys have any ideas or thoughts or suggestions, drop them in the comments. Drop them on Knowles 24/7 message board for us. Um, maybe we'll give you a shout out if you come up with a good idea. So anyway, we're going to take a look at this past weekend's highlights for guys that we could get a hold of. Not everybody's timely with getting their highlights up on Huddle.
yep.
Or sending them over to Zach privately. So we've got a handful here. Some big time guys and some big time plays were made over the weekend. Did you get a chance to watch any games? I know there were a couple games on ESPN2, I think, over the weekend. Did you get a chance to check any of them out, Zach?
Yeah, I mean, I watched some of the games that were on TV. I think one of them was like that game in Georgia with Julian Lewis and versus Aaron Nolan, the two top quarterbacks. That was a pretty exciting one. But I didn't get to go any games, but I'll be at some games this week. On Thursday,
Nice.
I'll be at FSU's 2026 commit. Devin Carter is coming down to South Florida to play a team down here, Monarch, who has some young talent that's pretty good. And then I'll be at the Chaminade game on Saturday.
Oh, that's going to be a big one.
Yeah.
Speaking of Chaminade, might be a big time player out of Chaminade that's going to be making a decision this upcoming weekend. He also had a pick six. I was going to start with him, but since you led me right into it, let's start with him. We're talking about Zaquan Patterson.
Yeah.
He had a big time play. Let me get this shared here so that we can watch it. And there he is. He had a big time play, a pick six in this game. Let's take a look at it, Zach.
I can't see it on my
end. Yeah, I'm pulling it up.
There you go. Got it. Cool.
Let's pull it up. So we got 37 seconds of highlight. There he is, lined up in the slot, which is interesting.
Yeah,
kind of a nickel roll. He's physical on the wide receiver, makes the tackle. It's a nice play out of him, and he's kind of one of those hybrid guys. He's a new age DB. I'm not sure he's a true safety, not sure he's a true corner, but can kind of do everything. You see him in coverage. You see him playing the football. You see him play. Oh, that's a nice play.
Look, and then he breaks the tackle and outraces that Miami Northwestern defense.
A little bit of bully ball. A little bit of bully ball. And Northwestern's a younger team this year, I believe I saw. So they, you got a grown man going against some younger guys, but that's still a heck of a play. You get a chance to see his instincts, his physicality, kind of the whole package. What's the latest on his recruitment? He's committing this Saturday. It seems like there's a lot of buzz about Florida State when there wasn't forever. Now everybody's talking about chicken farmers, and I don't know what's going on in the world of recruiting these days, but what's the latest with Patterson?
I just said everyone's got to thank Coach AB for all his NIL contributions. But this comes down to a few different factors. I wrote about it yesterday on Knowles 24/7, but right now I feel like FSU's in as good of a spot with Zaquan Patterson as they've ever been, probably better than they've ever been. Just, there's never been a point in his recruitment where I've pointed at FSU and been like, hey, they're probably the team to beat. Like even early on, Mike Norvell prioritized him since he was a freshman. And back then, Zaquan has talked about this a bunch of times on record. He was listed as a linebacker on our website and I think other websites. And he was not a fan of that because he had never really played linebacker. But the reasoning for that was because at that age, he was like 6 foot, 175 pounds. So I think everyone thought he was going to grow a little bit more. But he kind of stayed around that range. He put on a little bit more weight and he still has the really excellent athleticism. And that's why, he's now switched to a safety in our rankings. And I think that's fair. But like you said, AB, like he can play nickel. We saw him playing some in the slot there. Then he's played some boundary corner as well for his high school team. So yeah, a lot of positional versatility for him. As far as his recruiting process, I mean, I right now I feel really good about where FSU stands heading into the week, but there are other schools that are going to make plays here throughout the week, including Miami, the hometown school. They've been involved with him for just as long as FSU, and then Auburn's a school obviously who's been dominating on the recruiting trail recently. Garnering some 5-star commitments, and they're gonna be heavily invested into this recruitment this week. So don't count them out. And then I think the last team to note is Michigan. Ohio State's another school that's been mentioned in his top 5 as finalists, but I think Michigan's more of a threat than the Buckeyes right now for Zaquan Patterson. And to go a little bit in detail about why FSU's kind of surged for Zaquan recently, I think 2 things I want to note. FSU signed 2 top defensive backs from South Florida last cycle, and Chaminade Madonna's Edwin Joseph. That's a former teammate of Zaquan Patterson. And then St. Thomas Aquinas is Conrad Hussey. Both guys that Zaquan's very familiar with. They've both impressed in their first few months at FSU since arriving earlier this summer. And word has traveled down to South Florida. I moved down here just about 2 weeks ago or so. And I was at Chaminade last week, just kind of, talking around, and it's very clear that Hussey and Joseph's success at FSU so far has brought positive vibes down to South Florida, both around the Chaminade program as well as the DEF CON 7-on-7 group where Patterson plays. So I think that's really helping. And then the other thing I want to note, KJ Bolden, like his decision to commit to Florida State as a 5-star prospect, the number 1 safety in the country. That's, we talked about it right afterwards, how it would make waves on the recruiting trail and it would affect other recruitments. And I think this does have an effect on Patterson. How much of an effect, I don't think that Patterson's making his decision to, potentially choose FSU based on Bolden's, solely based on Bolden's. But I think it does have an impact. And I think it's one of those things where, your recruits kind of look to other recruits like, hey, like, do we believe in what what FSU is doing up there in Tallahassee? And for a 5-star guy to choose FSU over Georgia, pretty much any other school in the country, it says a lot. So that's the reason for the surge. And still a long way to go until his decision on Saturday, but I'm liking where FSU stands right now.
The Bolden commitment certainly has made waves. You had a great update on Laway McCoy. I believe it posted today, correct?
Yep, this morning.
Yeah, about a phone call or a FaceTime call that the 2 of them had recently. So I would advise anybody that's interested on updates on Laway McCoy to get over to Noles 24/7 and check out the latest posted by Zach today. All right, let's keep it moving here. Excuse me. We're going to keep it rolling, and while we're talking about KJ Bolden, well, let's take a look at his weekend. I believe he played last Friday.
Yeah,
played on a true Friday night. And I mean, he's a superstar. There's no other way around it. There's no ifs, ands, buts, or maybes. He's a top 5 guy for a reason in the rankings. And we're going to show you why. He just makes plays all over the field on both sides of the football. We've got it queued up. You can see it, right? Okay, just want to make sure.
Yeah, and this is against the number 6 team in the country preseason ranking for St. Francis out of Maryland.
Yep.
That's a touchdown catch that he caught.
St. Francis goes and plays everybody. I believe they're coming down to play Miami Central this weekend.
They're the team playing Chaminade on Saturday.
Okay, they're playing Chaminade. There you go.
So they play a national schedule.
Yeah. So Bolden's not highlighted, but he's number 5. No, am I right? Is he number 5?
I think 1 or 4. I can't remember.
We're gonna see it here because he just made a pick 6.
Yeah. So this was a pick 6, like he did score it, but I think they called it back due to a penalty.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, just
we're gonna watch this again. We're gonna go through this again. Yeah, there he is. He's number 1. Okay, so he's playing safety. Here he's a wide receiver catching the slant. He plays both sides of the ball. He's an electric wide receiver and a dynamic safety. Probably going to play a little bit of corner at Florida State. Not surprising. I think Buford likes him on the back end because he can eat up all the field. A lot of times in high school, you want to do that. Dynamic safeties, they can run sideline and eliminate a lot of stuff. Again, here he is.
This pick is crazy.
Yeah, here he is coming out of the middle of the field here to make this pick. I mean, you just get to see his range, his ball skills, just everything. He's just, I mean, look, I'm going to probably watch him one time because I can't get on every week and say, this is how great this kid is.
Yeah.
We know what he is at this point. He's a superstar.
Yeah,
There's a reason. There's a
his
reason
ability,
Kirby Smart wanted him.
his ability to help and run support too, I think, is super encouraging because you think of a high school safety, and a lot of times, a lot of those guys are kind of just playing back in coverage most of the time, but
Right.
but just seeing him being being willing to be physical, I think is extremely encouraging.
So he's in coverage here at safety, and he's going to come off on this out route and just blow this up. I mean, just absolutely
The closing speed.
Closing speed, the ability to cover ground, make up space. Yeah, he's dynamic.
Yeah,
this was maybe one of the worst games offensively. Like, he didn't make as many plays as you normally would see on offense.
Yeah, I mean, this is like a good St. Francis team. Their quarterback is a 4-star, committed to Oregon, Michael Van Buren, and he picked him off for that almost pick six. So just a really impressive week by KJ Bolden, and not really surprising because we already knew kind of the player he was, but it's good to see that he's continuing it on into his senior year.
Yeah. Not a lot to update there. He just committed. We know everybody's going to stay after him. Georgia's going to hunt on him till the very bitter end. That's one of those recruitments they're just going to have to – you're going to have to continue to fight until the end and have the kind of season that you're thinking that you're going to have this year.
Yeah.
Excuse me. A player I am more interested to talk about right now, not that I'm not interested to talk about KJ Bolden at all times, but a guy whose ranking is it's interesting. It's interesting. And I think that maybe he's going to find an update here at some point. It seems like some of the other in some other parts of the industry are starting to catch on. And that player is Elijah Moore. So we've got it pulled up here. Let's talk about Elijah Moore. His game, first off. We've talked about his lack of vertical speed, but I think you're going to find in this film, not that his vertical speed has like suddenly become amazing, but his ability to play with nuance and to play with quickness makes up for what he lacks in vertical speed. Right there is a good example. He sets up this route. He's kind of slow off. He's acting like he's going to come block, and you just see him explode. That kind of quickness, that agility it helps make up for what he doesn't have in the long speed. I think a more dynamic long speed guy here runs away from this and scores a touchdown. The ball's a little late. Maybe he's able to score if the ball's in stride, but he's got to kind of slow down for it. But his ability to kind of be explosive here and run by this DB is impressive to me. I think it's a trait that not a lot of people talk about. I think it's why he's a better player than where he's ranked right now in 24/7 Sports or the 24/7 Sports rankings.
Yeah, I know that he's one of the most highly debated guys in their rankings council meetings. I know that we've been told that like multiple times over the past couple of months.
Yeah,
because when he came to FSU for that Seminole Showcase at the end of July, I personally thought he was the best prospect working out that day. And I talked to a source yesterday that felt the same way. They flat out said that. And he's so impressive, to have the range that he does, 6'4.5". And I think he's just continuing to develop. Like, if you look at his last season of highlights, like there's some really impressive plays, some highlighting his catch radius and stuff like that. But he doesn't have a ton of production. So I think that's the next step for him, is kind of becoming that feature guy within his high school offense, and then continuing to develop his route tree and things like that. But man, like watching him in person at FSU doing some one-on-one stuff and some 7-on, like he's just absurdly impressive. Like I posted some clips on Twitter from back then that you guys can go look at, but it's he has one play where the ball's kind of thrown behind him and he goes back and catches it, and like you're like, how did that even happen? Like the catch radius is absurd. So I'm really high on Elijah Moore. I think we should go a little bit deeper into the film too, because he has some good stuff in blocking as well.
Yeah. This play interests me. I was waiting for you to be finished because the body control is another thing that we've seen big wide receivers come to Florida State and not be able to control their bodies the way he's able to. He's able to kind of straddle the sideline, keep both feet in bounds, and make a play as the ball's floating away from him and the DB's on the back of his body here. So you get to see the physicality, but the body control is just incredible. A lot of guys aren't able to do this. That ball would be off their hands or it would just get away from them. Yeah, I agree. He does have some good blocking clips after this. So, I mean, there's two catches. I don't know what his final stats were for the weekend. A lot of times that's not made available, but
yeah,
the production does seem to need to be there. It seems like his clips are a lot of times 2 or 3 plays in a game. I think the athletic profile is there.
yeah, and I don't know like all the details on their offense, like if they're
Right.
running more often than passing, but yeah, I think that's the next step for him. But
You
look at
kind of
this,
see
look at
2
this play.
dynamic crack blocks here.
Yeah,
Yeah, he shows his physicality, his toughness. He's willing to get in there and do the dirty work.
yeah,
All that
and I
stuff
think
matters.
that's something that Ron Dugans loves a lot in his receivers is their ability to go and want to, block for their teammates. And it's something he's prioritized within the guys on the team over the past few years. And that's kind of a staple of a Ron Dugans receiver room is guys being willing to block and put their bodies on the line, to make plays for other guys. So I think Elijah Moore kind of fits that mold, and I know FSU is really excited about getting him. And just a little note, like he told me today that he's going to be at the LSU game, the season opener. So I think that's a really encouraging thing for a guy from all the way up there in Maryland to come down. But yeah, he's still really solid with FSU.
Yeah. Right next to Delaware, he's a winner.
You got to go visit him.
I might go check a game out this year.
Drop the bag off.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So the next guy we're going to talk about is CJ Herdt. Not often discussed when we're talking about the class as a whole, a player long forgotten, but he's been in this class for over a year, correct?
Yeah. No, he's been here since July of last year or the year before. I mean, it's been a while.
It's been a while. He's taken some secret official visits. I don't know. That was all very odd in the summertime.
True.
But we also know that he was a big part of KJ Bolden's recruitment. He and KJ Bolden are friends, correct?
Correct. Like childhood friends.
Yeah. So, we'll see. But he had a pretty encouraging game, so I want to get into it and see what it looks like.
Yeah, I think this is the most interesting film of the week just to take a look at because, in my opinion, CJ Herdt does many things very well. There's some size limitations with him only being around 6 foot. Is he a I think he probably projects as a box safety. Some people have tried to move him to linebacker. I don't know if he's big enough to be a linebacker, and I don't think that really fits his skill set.
Right.
But yeah, we'll take a look now and see what you think.
Yeah, let's see what he's got going on. Hopefully he's highlighted.
He's the one, I think. It's hard to say who it is, but he's number 4 with the
he's the deep safety here.
Yeah.
So he's this guy. And this is what CJ does best. He comes downhill and makes plays in the run game. I'm hoping we get some good looks of him in coverage. I haven't watched this yet, so we'll see. He looks like he's leaned out a little bit, though. Over the summer, he looked kind of pudgy. He does.
He admitted to me, he admitted to me over the summer that he put on a little bit of weight. That was because he was nursing like an injury.
Yeah.
But I think since then he's gotten in shape. Brendan said when he saw him at the KJ Bolden commitment ceremony, he looked like rocked up. He had defined like deltoid muscles and stuff. Brendan with the weird descriptions. But anyway.
So far, you've seen a lot of him running the alley. All right, we're going to get a look at him in coverage here. Feet are good. He seems to understand, track the ball well. I think that's one of the things that's not often talked about. He understands. He often jumps out at me as understanding the game of football. He kind of gets what's going on the field.
He intercepted that, right?
Yeah. He undercut that ball.
Wow.
Let's take a look at it one more time here.
And he covers a lot of ground there too.
Yeah, he does. He's got some speed. He shows some quickness and some agility here to kind of run this down and get underneath of it. I mean, that looks like it's going to be a completion. The ball looks like it's on the back shoulder a little bit, so it may be a play that if it's a better throw, he just gets a hand on it. But you get a chance to see his athleticism. It looks better than what it did last year. His agility and his ability to run look improved. And then he makes a play on the football, which is great. That kid almost got it. Okay, that's another look at it.
Yeah.
Let's see the tail end here. Yeah, that's a hell of a play. I mean, the ball's behind, but still, a play there to be made. A takeaway. Adam Fuller would be happy to hear that. Let me say that. A takeaway for CJ Herdt. It's just going to be another look at it. Okay, another look at the same play. Who didn't catch the tail end? Good old
not even a look at it.
Either way, promising play from him.
Yeah.
We want to see more coverage stuff from him this year in his highlights to get an idea of what he's going to be. I think he's got a lot of Jamie Robinson in him personally. Maybe not as much of a. There we go. As far as a ball tackler and a guy who's going to play in the box, I don't think he's a guy that you're going to put in that nickel role like you could do with Jamie. But I think you can put him at the play him as a box safety, and he's going to make plays for you. He's going to do things like that. He's going to be a sure tackler. He's going to clean up run game.
Yeah, I think you mentioned a lot of his great traits, and I think the thing you mentioned earlier about him understanding the game and kind of being that field general, like I think that's definitely him. Like he's a very smart player, and I think that's kind of what's going to carry on to the college level and help him be able to develop well at the next level.
And is he locked in? Is he good?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's locked in. I think some of that was just him trying to drop some intrigue with his recruitment, but he'll probably take some visits. But I don't expect him to flip from FSU. This has been his dream school. Same as KJ Bolden. What's funny when CJ Herdt committed, I think it was July of 2022. He walked outside of the Moore and we kind of talked for a while. I think Chris was there too. And I was like, who are you going to recruit? And he's like, KJ Bolden. And then after the interview, I'm like, do you really think like KJ Bolden would come here? And he's like, all they needed to do, like, this was after 5 and 7. So this is before 10 and 3. So he's like, all we need to do is win. Like, that's what he told me. Like, if we win, like he's gonna come. Like, he was confident about it. And I was like, wow. I was a little like hesitant on it. But I mean, the man spoke the truth. Like he knew what he knew what was going to go down, and he's really, really close with KJ. Like there's photos of them at a Jimbo Fisher camp in like 2017. They look like
it's
babies.
wild.
They look like babies, like running on the field over there at the IPF. So no, it's just really cool to see that come full circle, and a cool story that and CJ's a great guy. Like, he's an awesome dude to talk to. So that was a pretty cool anecdote.
I think he's a Mike Norvell kind of guy, personally. Adam Fuller kind of guy, like a program. I don't want to just define him as a program guy because that's not fair to his game, but one of those dudes that you can, as a cornerstone of your program, and that you can rely on and be dependable. Yeah. And he's going to show up every day and do his job, and he's going to be a great dude in the locker room. Like, I think he's a great fit for this class, and hopefully it ends up staying. I mean, sounds positive. So, all right, we're going to keep it moving here. Another player that we're going to look at. Make it full screen. Who the heck was this? This was
Jayden Parrish.
Yeah, Jayden Parrish. Thank you.
So 3-star linebacker commit. He plays for Delray Beach Atlantic High School over in South Florida. And I mean, there was a clip on Twitter. You obviously won't be able to hear it on Huddle, but it's a little bit into this the hit. Yeah, where he just smacks someone, and it's kind of that's all you can hear. So
he there was I think we were live when he committed, and there was a boatload of hoopla about Randy specials, and you have certainly been at the forefront of they need to recruit this position better. I think they hit on this dude. He just makes plays on the football, and he looks athletic. Like, he kind of has broken the mold of what they've taken of, like, that 6 foot, 215-pound guy that just kind of looks pudgy and slow. Like, this dude runs well. He moves laterally really well. You get a chance to see him here at running back. Like, he doesn't have a future at running back, but he does a nice job. I mean, you see some agility, you see some quickness, some explosiveness, like getting up in the hole, physicality.
He reminds me a lot of or the film reminds me a lot of Omar Graham out of high school.
Yeah.
Because Omar did some running back stuff for
Mhm.
Stranahan back in the day, and then we see a lot of that Jayden Parrish film going two ways. So
Yeah.
I think Jayden's I think has a little bit bigger of a frame, but kind of similar players. And you're right. Out of all the hot takes I'm going to have about who they're taking a linebacker, I think this is a guy that I'm pretty high on.
Yeah.
A guy that is really impressive when you talk to him, and I think he's just a really really good football player. So we can dive more into the film, but yeah,
Yeah.
I agree with you. I think he's a guy that I like as a
Yeah.
take for them in this class.
Here's a play, he kind of gets caught up in the wash, gets stuck on one of his defensive linemen, and he kind of runs it down. That's not a highlight, but hey, it's nice to see he keeps fighting after the football and keeps going after it.
Yeah.
Here he diagnoses, runs this thing down sideline to sideline. Like, I think when we talked about him, when they landed him, the difference between him and like the super 5-star guy is just a tick of speed. Like, some of these guys are just a little bit faster. So on this last play, let's look at it one more time. So on this play, the super freak 5-stars are making that play closer to the line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
They're that fast, they're that explosive. He makes this play at 3 yards and ends up getting, tackling, falling forward for 5 or 6, whatever. I think that's a difference, but it's still a hell of a nice play. Like, this is a guy you can count on to be out there and make plays and play sideline to sideline football and be dependable in your defense.
Yeah. And he hustles. Like, that's a good hustle player right there. Like, he's going to try and pressure the quarterback and then runs downfield to go make the play.
Like, I don't want that to seem like it's a disrespect towards him, because I think he's a good football player. And I think that when fans or when people are watching these things, like, there's a lot of nuance and a lot of gray area to the differences between a super, super elite 5-star top 10 guy and a player who's ranked where he's at. He's still a really, really good football player.
Yeah, I agree.
Yep. Seeing his physicality here again, running. I'd like to see a little bit more linebacker. I don't know if I've seen the hit that was posted on Twitter yet. This might be it.
Yeah.
So the running counter tray, boom. Yeah, that play was a hell of a lot more impressive on Twitter, but it looks good here too. I mean, he sees the window, he gets through it, he comes downhill, and he stops it in his tracks. There's another guy there, but very violent play. You like to see that.
Love it. I mean, if you're looking for a guy at a high school that have that kind of tenacity at that position, like, that's exactly what you're looking for.
This looks a little bit different for him. This is explosive. I haven't seen this yet necessarily. Running forward, blitzing, like, that's a nice looking play right there. He shows ability to change direction, gets skinny, gets off the blocker. Yeah, there you go. It's not bad.
He should have led the highlight tape with that.
Yeah,
it's probably just the sequence of the game or whatever. But yeah, I'm sure that'll be one of the lead clips on his season highlight.
I'm sure there's not a lot to update there.
I mean, locked in. I actually talked to him at a media day down here a couple of weeks ago, and completely locked in. He's gonna be at multiple games this season. He said a couple schools still hit him up, but he's not really like talking to them that much.
I think that's another valuable player to have in your class.
For sure.
But a guy maybe moving forward we'd like to see being the floor of the linebacker class, as opposed to, I would say,
I think that's
potentially the ceiling.
Yeah, I think that's the point. Like, if you're recruiting at the level we've seen FSU recruit recently at other positions, like, he's a guy that should definitely be a take, but probably shouldn't be the top linebacker in your class.
Right. A player that we're going to talk about is not a commitment, but is a big-time target for them. And Zach said, he had a really nice game. Let's take a look at it. It's Jamari Howard.
And I just think the film is very interesting on him. His recruitment's interesting. Like, I think FSU probably leads for him, but there's a lot of flip-flopping with other schools, like who's interested, who's hitting him up the most. I think Maryland, Penn State, UF, Rutgers are kind of the schools, which is, for a kid from South Florida, it's a little bit of a weird crop of schools. I don't think Miami's super involved with him right now. FSU's definitely hot and heavy, but he's not a guy that's trying to decide anytime soon. But FSU likes him a lot. I mean, the range, I think, stands out a ton. The arm length is something that FSU loves a ton, and their corners, and I think Jamari has, excels in both of those areas.
Yeah. So let's dig into the film, take a look at him. I believe this is him here at the bottom of the screen.
Yes, I believe you're right.
So you're right. You see the length. Oh man, come on, you gotta make that play.
Yeah.
All right through the hands. Feet are good, nice choppy, very smooth. He stays down in his pedal, gets a little high there at the back. He's a little slow in his transition, gets a little stuck there, but still really solid. The arm length just kind of jumps out at you. You're looking at him as a player. He's ready to house that thing.
Yeah. Just super lengthy. Like, I think that's the biggest thing that stands out about him.
Yeah, it's crazy, man.
Yeah.
Nice physical football play.
He just forced a fumble there.
Yep.
Yeah, and they had him matched up against a guy that's probably a G5 receiver, number one. I forget his name. It's Marcellus something, and he's a pretty good player. So that he was matched up with him all game, and did a good job of containing him.
Yeah, Jamari he just always looks like a dog out there when I see him.
Yeah,
watching his junior highlights and stuff, he's kind of got that it.
Yeah,
I think he knows it too, which is good.
I definitely think there's so when I went to Norland High School last week to go see him, I kind of sat in on some of their film stuff like before practice. So they're working as hard as any high school I've seen down there. Like they were doing some pre-practice like stair runs, and then went straight into the film room, and then went out to practice. And when he was in the film room, like very attentive, and then when he was out on the field, he would like a lot of this like install stuff they were doing on defense the day before. Like he would be calling out stuff. Like the coach wouldn't even be like talking to him, and he'd just be like calling out coverages and where he was supposed to be. And it was it was pretty impressive. And he was just speaking to himself. I'm like, that's a little interesting, but really cool that he's that interested in being knowledgeable about the game and where he's supposed to be.
That's good. Student of the game, his head's in it. Would rather him not give up this inside position. They're playing, but it looks like they've got a guy running underneath this slant route. He knows that. Gets a little physical there on it, and I think they throw a flag. Yeah, that's kind of cheap one. That ball's way over his head. He's never going to make that play. His pedal looks like it could use a little work. He gets a little. He's in a zone drop. His heel shouldn't be clicking. And then he kind of starts crossing over there. So he's got some technique stuff to clean up
for sure.
But there we go. Again, you just see the length. He's able to get up over top of that, and he's what they wanted DB.
Yeah, and he's not a finished product. Like I don't think anyone's trying to claim that. And not many at a high school are. But just the intangibles, man. Like I think that's exactly what they're looking for at corner. And like I said before, I don't think he makes the decision until probably December. Is what he's aiming to decide. But he's going to make an official visit to FSU probably like in December. Then he's probably going to visit for at least one game, probably the Miami game in November.
Word. All right. We had one other. We were going to take a look at Luke, but I think we're going to stop there. Luke didn't get to play a full game. They only played like a half, and then there was some drama in the stands, so they cut it short. And it's not really a highlight. It's kind of a whole team or whole game thing. So I think we'll save Luke for when he's got a full game under his belt and he's got some highlights out there for us. So I'm going to call it here. That's me, Coach AB. That's Zach. He's down in South Florida doing the dang thing. Apparently, I'm running the NIL game up here in Delaware, and you're dropping all the bags off down there in South Florida. When did we become Scarface? I don't understand. When did this happen?
I don't know, but I love it, and I love that Miami fans are freaking out about it. Comment chicken farm in the chat. I appreciate you guys listening, and hope you guys like this content. We'll continue to do it more this season.
Yep, it's going to be a weekly thing for us, hopefully, and we'll catch you next time.